So for this one, they gave you the first class of 85 to 89. And the reason they did that was because all you need to know is the class width of the first class, and it's the same for every class. So if the first class is 85 to 89, that's 5. 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. That means the next class is 90 to 94. Next class is 95 to 99, and so on. So you'll be able to determine each class from there on out. If you know the class width is 5, you could go, well, if that ends at 89, you know this starts at 90, and the class width is 5, you know that ends at 94. If that ends in 94, you know the next one starts at 95. And if the class width is 5, it ends at 99, and so on. The next one starts at 100. Or you could just say, an easier way to do it actually is knowing that the class width is 5, start with the lower limit, add 5, you get 90, add 5, you get 95, add 5, you get 100, and so on. The upper class, the first one is 89, add 5, you get 94, add 5, you get 99, and so on. Then what you do is count. Well, how many are between 85 and 89? I'm not going to actually do it, but if you go, there are 7 of these numbers. You just count how many are between 85 and 89. There's 7 of them. How many are between 90 and 94? Well, if you count them, there must be 7 of those. How many are between 95 and 99? There's 7 of those. Well, so 7's a popular answer. How many are between 100 and 104? 7 of those. How many are between 105 and 109? 8 of those. So finally something different, okay? Okay, so I kind of jumped ahead to later in the chapter, but going over a problem like this will have you understand problems earlier in the chapter better. Okay, I want to go over what quartiles mean, all right? Here's the data. Here's the data as is, in the order they gave it to you, and here's the data in numerical order, okay? 5-number summary is basically means the first one is the min and the last one's the max, so that's easy. So what's the lowest number? 8. What's the biggest number? 17, okay? The median, let's start with the median. The median, if we're going to do this by hand, I'm going to show you how to do it in Excel. The reason I wrote it in order is because I want you to understand what we're doing. And if we were to do this by hand, you would have to put these numbers in order, which I did down here, okay? The median is what number is exactly halfway through all the data, okay? Not the average. The average is you would average or mean would mean you would add all these up and divide by 11, okay? But that's not what we're after here. We're after what is the number that is in sequential order, the number that's right in the middle. Well, if there's 11 pieces of data, 13 to 23, there's 11 pieces of data. That means the 6th data piece is the one right in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11. That 11 is right in the middle of all the data shown. Okay, so that's the median right there. All right, so the Q1 means what number represents 25% of the way down in the order, okay? Well, if the 11's the median, then there are 5 below it and 5 above it, right? So what you do for the 25, Q1 is the same as 25th percentile. What piece of data is 25% down the way? If there's 5 below, okay, what is the median of those 5 numbers, okay? Well, the median of those 5 numbers is 10, because 10 is right in between the middle of 8, 9, and 10 and 11, or 10 and 10 rather, okay? So 10 is the number 25% of the way through. Do the same thing for the 5 numbers that are above the median, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? So there's 5 numbers above the median. The number that's halfway through those numbers is 13, so that's Q3, or 75th percentile. So Q1 is the same as 25th percentile, and that number's 10. Q3 is the 75th percentile, or in this case it's 13. The min is 8, the max is 17, okay? The IQR, interquartile range, is what it stands for, is simply Q3 minus Q1, okay? So Q3 is 13 minus 10 is 3. Okay, obviously you don't need a calculator to be anything but somewhat reasonable in math in your head, okay? All right, So now let's do this by Excel. Okay, just so say now you just enter those and not worry about what order it is. In Excel, you go to formulas. I'm going to have to expand this because sometimes Excel does not show all the formulas you want. Make sure your Excel that you're using, when you go formulas, more functions, statistical, if you can't get these formulas in the version you're using, make sure it's free with the school. It's in your student portal. If you have any questions on how to make sure you get the correct version, contact our IT department, tshelp@egcc.edu. I'm not very good at helping you in that. They will be much better than me. I'll show you how to use it once you get here. But if you can't get this version of Excel, you're going to need it for the future of the course too. Even if you decide to do this by hand, you definitely need to have these formulas. Make sure you contact our tech support to get this correct version. Okay, so we go to quartile.exe. Use quartile.exe. Don't use inc. Use exe. Okay, and then it asks for an array. You would hit everything array. Then it asks for what quartile. We're looking for quartile 1, so you would hit quartile 1, and there's your answer 10, which we already got by hand. So you could even go in here and say Q1. Okay. Q1. You can even do that if you could just label it, okay? If you want just to make sure you're keeping track. Median, you could do the same thing and just put 2, but there is a formula for median in here. Median, and then you don't have to hit a number because it is Q2, so you just hit enter for median. All right, so that's median. Median and Q2 are the same thing. You could have gone to quartile just as we did and hit 2 for the QRAT, the second part, if you choose. Doesn't matter, I'll give you the same answer. And then for Q3, you do the same thing for Q1, and you hit the array button, and quartile 3, okay, which is 13, as we already know. All right, so that's how you do it by hand and how you do it in Excel. How do we determine an outlier? Basically, an outlier in other words, are any of these numbers, let's just say I told you that I was clocking speeds on my street, and the speeds were 27, 28, 30, 32, 44, and 99. That 99 is like, whoa, stands out, doesn't it? What if I said the same thing, 28, 29, 32, 33, 37, 4, okay? That 4 and that 99 stand so far out of the realm of the other numbers. That's what they call them outliers. And sometimes when there's outliers in data, we ignore them as statisticians just because they're so far off, and we don't want it to skew our analysis. How do we determine if anything is an outlier? Okay, so for the lower number, so like say for the lower number, the lower fence they call it is Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. Okay, so if we take Q1, which we deem as 10, minus 1.5 times the IQR, which is 3, we get our 5.5, okay? All right. So in other words, anything below 5.5 is an outlier, okay? That would consider an outlier. There are no data points below 5.5, so there are no outliers, okay? All right, for the upper number, you would go Q3 plus 1.5 times IQR, okay? Which is, let's see, Q3 we determined to be 13, right? 13 plus 1.5 times 3, okay, to get 17.5. So in other words, any number that's below 5.5 or above 17.5 would be considered an outlier based on all the data here that we have. There are none above 17.5 or below 5.5, so there aren't any outliers. Now we're able to do problems that are earlier in this section because it's just easier to understand what Q1, Q2, Q3, and and so on is, okay? So what these lines, what this box plot represents, each line represents the 5 numbers that we just talked about. So for the CPA, let's just take a snippet here so I could write on it, okay? For the CPA, this is the min, this is the max. Each line represents a value down the way. That's the min, that's Q1, that's the median, that's Q3, and that's the max. All right, so just each line represents the 5 number summary. Okay, that's M for median. Okay, same here. This is Q. This is the min. That's Q1. That's the median. Q3, and that's the max. All right. So in other words, any box plot summary, that's what. There's 5 lines. You just go in order. Min, Q1, median, Q3, max. Min, Q1, median, Q3, max. So let me get rid of all this mumbo jumbo so we could see what's going on. So what the question is that the person making the median salary for a CPA, the median salary for the CPA is right here. Okay. So in other words, the median salary for the CPA is the same as the first quartile for an actuary, okay? Is the same as the first quartile for an actuary, all right? Is equivalent to the, so the median, the answer here is, I didn't show it, first quartile, okay? Because the median on the CPA is the same as the first quartile for the actuary because they line up perfectly aligned, okay? All right. So, and this person, assuming it's a he, of course, is making less than 75% of the actuaries. Okay. So if I take, in other words, this is 75% of the actuaries right here. Okay. All right. So this person, because it lines up with the Q1 of actuary, is making less than 75% of the actuaries. In other words, it's only making more than 25% of the actuaries, okay? Which means it's less than 75% of the actuaries. If that was a more than, it would be 25%. He's making more than 25% of the actuaries, and he is making at the same time less than 75% of the actuaries. There's more data in the third quartile here. In the upper 25%, so it would be considered skewed right. Just a quick explanation on something. The median here, if you do this in Excel, you get the right answers. Here's the right answers. If you put them in order and do them by hand, you'll see the median is 6 because it's the value right in the middle, but there's only 4 values below the mean and 4 values above the mean. So there's not one number that is in the middle. So when that happens, you take the 2 numbers that are in the middle, 4 and 5 in this case, and you take the average of those 2 numbers to get 4.5. And you also take the 2 numbers, so here's the 4 numbers after the median. The 2 numbers that are in the middle are 15 and 20, okay? 15 and 20. So you take the average of 15 and 20 and get 17.5. But if you do it in Excel, you'll get the same answers. Just wanted to explain that to you, why these numbers are how they are. Okay, for these type of problems, if they just give you a 5-number summary and ask you for outliers, do not plug these in Excel. Use this for Q1, okay, and use this number for Q3. That's simple. Just these problems. The number where they give you 5 numbers and ask you for outliers. Use that for Q1, use that for Q3. Q3 minus Q1 interquartile range is 11. So I know this doesn't make sense, this negative number, but they still, if it comes out to be negative, they want you to put it in there. So 6 minus 1.5 times 11 is that, and 17 plus 1.5 times 11 is that. Okay, there are 2 actual methods to determine outliers. The first one is, as we discussed before, take Q3 minus Q1, and then do the formula we just did before. You come up with this IQR, lower is Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR,